watch the
So I've been on the team for 4 years. I'm a senior. I've been the strategy lead 3 out of the 4 years I've been on the team. This past season was our 21st season as a team. In 2019 we made it to the Einstein finals, lost by 1 point in a tiebreaker match. Um, and we achieved the hexpecta. For some of you who don't know, hexpecta is like achieving. We did it this season where we scored every single main award of there's a bunch of awards. I don't know, people are talking about it, I don't really know a whole lot. Something cool, not just bragging rights, it doesn't matter a whole lot.
all the main awards that you can get at a competition. We have secured at least one of each.
Yeah, in the past, however many years. And when also another thing about myself, since I've been on the team, I've been involved in strategy. And I like it a lot, and it's come a long way since we started. So today we'll be talking about the purpose of scouting, so pit scouting, pre-scouting a little bit, and then match scouting, how you use that information in match strategies and in pick lists, and then also strategy role during kickoff. On I-30 we have a little bit of a role during kickoff, kind of leading some larger group presentations and kind of working through some things to get us thinking before we talk about how we build our robot. Determining scouting metrics. This kind of seems really easy, but if you can look at it from a more in-depth point of view, and you can think of things that aren't normally just how many points they score, because that's important, but there's other things too. Scouting process and training. This one, it kind of makes sense. You got to train scouters to make sure they know what the game is and how to scout and how to use whatever scouting system you're using, but also just have some expectations and guidelines so that when those things aren't met, you know how to handle those situations. And then match strategy. When I've been the strategy lead, I've been talking to drive coaches from our team and other teams and drive team drivers and stuff about how to work out the match and certain things to do. And then a big one here, pick list, probably the longest portion I'm gonna talk about because it's very important. How to make one, what to do if you're not picking, but you still should do something to make sure you get on a good alliance. So purpose of pit scouting. Every single morning, Thursday morning when you come to competition, it's all day, just practice matches. This is the time you want to do pit scouting. So pit scouting, just basically physical characteristics of robots. You could have an app, you could have it on a piece of paper and put it into Google Sheets or Excel, and you could type out what type of drivetrains they have, the motors they use. Some teams like to know that for just how powerful there is at pushing. Different wheel types just because of friction depending on the game. 10 years ago there was a game where it wasn't carpet, it was on this silk floor called Lunacy. I wasn't there obviously, but there's sometimes that wheels matter. You could use robot dimensions, how wide a robot is. For example, this year, for climbing, you could have 3 robots in a bar. Cheesy Poops was able to have 3 robots climb all the way up to traversal because they'd had pit scouting and they found out the skinniest robots they could climb with. Wild Stang, they can triple traversal with other robots here. It's kind of crazy if you know what you're looking for. And then weight for certain things. Last year we had the shield generator that would kind of sway back and forth. Weight was really important for that year just to know how to balance it. It's kind of weird. It's teeter-totters more or less. And then I had a driver video camera this year, which was just so can they see when they're playing on the opposite side of the field? Do they can they work with our strategy for match strategy? So more or less, those are some of the specific things I've asked. We always ask what the drivetrain is every year and what your mechanism is. What type of shooter, climber. This year is very similar. Almost everybody had a similar type of shooter. I'm a strategy person. I'm not a mechanical person. I don't know the exact difference in all these mechanisms. That's why I keep lists of them that I get help from. a mechanical student that can help me like categorize certain parts. And I'm like, okay, that's a shooter with 2 wheels on it, that's a 1-wheel shooter, that has a turret, that one is a fixed shooter. You can kind of differentiate between those and use that for your pick list later down the road. Talk to every single team, that's kind of a big one. If you miss one team, you might not know what they are. So the things I like to avoid during like talking to teams is, how many points do you score? Like, do you score well? Like what? Like it's just asking those questions. They could generally sorry.
More people that want to.
Okay. Welcome, guys.
Leave the door a little open.
Okay. Sorry. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Is this locked? Okay. Anyways, just sometimes I've asked teams like, oh, how many cargo do you score? And they kind of like bluff tend to, and I just want the accurate information. You can find the most accurate information probably from your regular match code. And be nice to people you may be working with them in some matches of match strategy or big list. So, for example, in match scouting, so this is where you get the bulk of your information. This is the most important stuff to use during competition. Obviously, game pieces. You want to know what game pieces are. You want to know some defense. You can also think about some timing certain actions. This year we timed climbing because we want to know who is the fastest climber. Because fastest climber, the more they play in defense, and the more they play in offense. All those sorts of things. Other than just can they do it. Scouting every match, obviously, you miss one match, that could be the one match that robot broke, or that one match that robot fixed all their problems and they scored 10, 12, 15 cards on one match. And things not to check, scouting opinions and like subjective questions, more things that like, it's different, because like my best type, like if I say like, for example, they're a very fast robot, my definition maybe of fast may be different than Amanda's definition of fast, because I've seen a lot more than she has and she may not know, even with all the training I could give her. So it's just more about trying to figure out what questions give you the most value without overloading them. And also be honest with these questions. Like if the robot broke, so explain what the issue is. Don't be like, yeah, they kind of suck, they're a bad robot. That's not very nice. That's not gracious professionalism. We want to keep things nice, professional, and respectful. We like to help out a lot of people at competition, so we want to give good information if we share it to them, and not give out bad information. So here's some things here. This is kind of an interactive thing, so if you guys think they're a good question, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. So do you think, did they score well with a yes or no answer? Is that a good question or a bad question? All right, what about this one? Do you like this team? Is that a good question or a bad question? Did they win the match? Could you have used that in some way? It's like, kind of, maybe a little bit. How about, did they climb well? You can kind of describe how that goes. Is that an okay one? What about a defensive scale? How does that sound? Defensive skill could work, and then describe defense. That one, we'll see. All right, let's see the answers here. So I would say score well, obviously, like that wouldn't be the best. That's kind of too vague. Do you like this team? Maybe that could work, but probably not so much. Did they win the match? That's kind of like you could use it for certain calculations. You could find out if they won that match, what were they doing in the match? You can kind of cross-reference it in some type of way in the database. How well did they climb? Maybe you want to have it more closed off. A description is kind of hard to analyze. And rating defense on a scale, it's probably the best you can do unless you have like a really good scouter on defense. And describe defense, again, is kind of open-ended. You kind of probably want to tone in things more. Generally what we've done, generally what we've done is try to make things very, have more numbers than words. Makes things easier. So what is data used for? I talked a little bit before. It's for match strategy and pick list mainly. I've used this a lot more than Blue Lines. Blue Lines does, if you have nothing, use Blue Lines. Don't just go to a competition completely blind using nothing. Blue Lines will be a very good friend. So this is from Seven Rivers, this little picture here. This is the OPR. OPR is Offensive Power Ranking, which is just basically taking your average points of each match you've played of your alliance, divided by 3, and then like averaging them together by how many matches you played. It's not 100%. It's just supposed to, meaning how strong is your robot, and you can see those were the top 5 teams there, which was similar to some of the scouting data that I collected at that event. But it's not truly accurate because there's a whole lot more than just that number. So for match strategy, we can use the scouting data we collected to know our strengths and weaknesses and our opponents, our partners, so we can kind of work together and make sure we do well in those things. For pick lists, we can figure out who scores the most, who defends the best, and like what qualities makes them the best, and also their like experience more or less. So strategies roll during kickoff. This is kind of, it's not a huge one, but it's a little bit. Our strategy sub team preps for kickoff a little bit more than some other sub teams on our team. So obviously we all watch the game animation with the rest of the team. Immediately after that, we normally break for lunch and we kind of just talk about, oh, what's going on with kickoff? Like, what do you guys think? Kind of hang out. Strategy just kind of goes in their like own little corner and reads all of the rules like in depth, and like we do read the rules as a team, but we just focus in on what are every single penalty. Can we like cheese the game and somehow find out some crazy penalty we can get around? That's how some teams, like if you guys ever saw Roboteers or Wave, they made a climber that can drive up the traversal, like bar and truss and climb on top. They were there at Lakeshore last weekend, and they read the rules and found a loophole somehow, reading the Q&As that get released and figuring out how can you just get a deeper understanding more or less. Then this point analysis, I'll show you on the next page. Next slide. You can go back still. Sorry. Go back.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. It's just to break down what should you do in a match, more or less. This year is very simple, just constantly keep shooting. But in a year like 2019, where there's 2 different game pieces and 2 different values, you could figure out mathematically what was the best way to do with your time. And then we also start thinking about height and weight and scoring locations. This year, height mattered when you were driving underneath the low bar. You could climb with your partners. It didn't matter who went in first. Go on whenever you want and climb up. It's a little minor detail that could help you actually just maneuver better. Weight didn't really matter this year. It did last year with the bars swinging back and forth. And scoring locations. Are you a zone shooter? Do you shoot up against the fender? Do you shoot on the tarmac line? And how is that going to work with your partners? Are you going to get in their way? Is there enough room? I mean, this year there was, but depending on the game, there may not be a whole lot of room, and you may have to figure these things out and plan them out at kickoff before you get to competition. All right, so now this is the point analysis chart. Me and a student on the team made this like 2 years ago, and this is kind of more or less how it works. We just have I go up in front and the whole team, and I talk about, here, let's create some actions, like drive to the balls, pick up the balls, drive to the shooting location and shoot in assigned seconds. None of these seconds are like right, it's just kickoff, we don't know where we're going. And then we pretend climbing, like drive up the climbing and traverse, we kind of go up in bars, so we have go to low, go to mid, and go to high, and kind of like add seconds, how long it would take to go between them, all those things. Then we would obviously assign how do you score, all the values in here, and kind of those sorts of things. It would tell us that like shooting 1, 2, or 3 cargo, 2 cargo, almost 3. Having this time would be calculated from over here with the actions chart, and then you would find that, and this would be like, all right, if you want to shoot 2 cargo in a high goal, that would take you 23 seconds, and it would tell you the points per second of what you're doing. And it always kind of seems like the points per second of endgame always was faster, so you always want to climb if possible. Then over here is the match simulation tab, where there's an option that says number of cycles up there. You would type in a number saying, all right, I'm going to do that thing that many times in the match. So we had to shoot 2 low cargo 4 times during a match. That would earn me 8 points and would leave me with however many seconds that I could do 1 traversal hanging at a 9 seconds left or something like that. It's just kind of giving you an idea, and if you wanted to, you could probably put in the real numbers of how long it takes to do certain actions, and you could find out how many points predicted by breaking down every single thing you do in a match. This was just for kickoff to figure out what are we gonna try to, what robot we're gonna make. We talk about this before we talk about robot designs, because before you make your robot, you wanna know what gets the most points basically. Yeah. So determining scouting metrics, I talked a little bit before. You want to have obviously all the things that get points. You want to have like upper, lower hub, what every single different type of climbing level, as well as some things like defense, for example. This list right here was all from our team this year. I think we might have removed some of them, maybe not. So yeah, we basically, the one thing we really wanted this year was accuracy. So we thought about what do we want to calculate. So we want to find the accuracy of a robot, accuracy of a climber as well, so we can figure out if they tried it or they failed it, and you can find out like the success rate of going through that climb. And we also want to find out how many times do they climb out of how many matches. So they climb 7 out of 10 matches at this bar or at this bar. We're gonna have like 1 here, 2 there, and it'll show you in an analysis I can show you guys in a couple slides later. And one thing we found is the more you have, because this kind of looks like a lot because it's just on a Google Doc and I pulled it here. This is like 20 something, maybe I think it's actually 19 things, maybe 20. It's kind of it's not a whole lot. There was one year where we did like almost like 60 of them, and scouters burnt out, didn't know anything, and it was very bad data because you want to have accurate data, but you want to get all the information you need. But yeah, the things we always want to have the point values, obviously all the scoring mechanisms, and then some things like accuracy is really important depending on a shooting game. Also, how many times they've done us like climbing, because that's very important, as well as like yeah, those and penalties sometimes in defense. Those are like the really big ones here. So don't overwhelm scouters. This is what our scouting app this year. This doesn't seem like it's a whole lot. It kind of is nice. You got 3 different pages here, all that stuff. But if you were like last year, or yeah, 2020, that's what the scouting app was. And these pages scroll. This one is like, would be all the way down there if it was big enough. It was way too much. The scouters were tired and they like almost fell asleep during their shifts and stuff. It was ridiculous. Nobody liked that. We wanted to get all the information we could as a scouting team and a strategy team. We wanted to know everything. It did not go as well as we thought. So I went in 180 the direction, only put 19 this year compared to that in 2020. And we did like something in between over the summer, and last year. So don't do that. We learned the hard way, sadly. So I blow video. So one of our mentors knew that for this video. So yeah, it's only like goofy video, but basically more or less, we use that for like as an example of like the way we train students. It's kind of funny, but or we could do like a dull mundane presentation where we just talk about all right, what is scouting, kind of how we organize things. So basically, what we do, we have 2 weeks before competition, we have a presentation where we sit all the students that are going to be scouting down and we talk about scouting, what is the game, all those obvious stuff. The things how we organize scouters, we have a seating chart not Steven chart, but more of just like, hey, can you guys sit in front of us so we can see your tablets and so we can help you guys. You guys aren't like across the thing. We assign them with a number. So red 1, red 2, red 3. This is blue 1 right here. That's blue or red 1 recording right now. So that's just so you know who you're scouting. We have a little strategy finder here. It's nothing crazy. It just has our schedules of who's going to be scouting during what time. We have a little printout of the rule book as well, and like kind of a game explanation sheet in here, like what the scouting stuff is. So if they wanted to look at this, they could, or if we forget what we meant by something, other stuff like that. And there's some pictures of the field and certain things in here we wanted to have. But yeah, and we kind of used, it's really important for us to have like all these different schedules, so we just know who's going to be scouting, what we can do to help them. We wanted to give a presentation to all the scouters so they know what they're doing. And our expectations are very simple but really important. Be on time to your shift, be watching robots, don't be on your phone, and just have a good time, have fun. Doesn't matter if you're talking to your friends and stuff, as long as we get the information, have fun. That's really important to Bear Scouts. So Bear Scouts, this is the app we've been making for the summer. So it's an app, but it's a Google form. So you guys could, as soon as we're going to be releasing this to the public on the App Store eventually at some point. Basically, this app is going to be a regular scouting app. You have all your options. You kind of saw them a couple slides ago. It's kind of hard to see, but you have your regular scouting options here, but it's a Google form, so you can go in there and change them. So if you click play, I should play the video. So this is kind of showing you how it works. There's going to be pit scouting and match scouting in here. You can go and, like, these are the 6, 7 options here, and he's going to show you where you go to the settings option, type in the password, which is the name of the app. You can go and click on the config file, or not even a file, it's just a sheet like this. You can just see whatever he scrolls down, what he wants to change. He just clicks in, types in whatever he wants the other option to be, and he changes like some options in here. Changes some stuff in here, and then he goes back to the scouting portion. He clicks on the same thing he changed, and look, there is a 92 Falcons drivetrain apparently. But yeah, so more or less, that's what this is going to be in the future. And we hope to send this guys out to you. If you guys want to talk to me after and be like, hey, that's a really cool app, I want to. That's okay. I want to like get my hands on it. I can work with you guys. We want to get this to as many teams as we can. Before next season, that's what our goal is. And how this app kind of exports the data and stuff, because that's always like the tricky part. We just have a QR code scanner we bought on Amazon that scans QR codes, obviously, and just puts it right in the database. We're going to be making tutorials on how to operate the app, make certain things, but also how to like do some database side of things if you're new to that, because that's always a big part of strategy, which could be a whole another presentation in and of itself. But yeah, okay. So good old math strategy. Important thing to have a whiteboard. It's really important. I walked around with this or a smaller one to every single competition, and I won't be doing that tomorrow, but somebody else will be, where you talk about math strategy. You got little red 1, red 2, red 3 on here, red, same thing with blue, and you can put in your partners in here, and you can talk about, plan out what you're going to do, draw out the plays. So, important thing, when you do math strategy, make sure everybody's there. Make sure it's somebody that is on the drive team or a drive coach, whoever you get, maybe the whole drive team if possible. Obviously, the kind of things you want to talk about are the 3 different parts of the game. So, auto, who's going to be starting where? Are you running the 4-ball auto? Are you running the 2-ball? What are you doing around here? And teleop, who's going to be playing offense, or if there's somebody playing defense, where are they going to be playing defense? Are they playing in a zone, or are they playing on a robot? And end game. Who's gonna be climbing first, second, third? Are you driving underneath? Are you driving in the side? What's going on? And then, but the thing is that we kind of noticed about, like talking to teams, or at least I've noticed, is you want to always have some scouting data with you, so you can know who is the strongest shooter, where do they shoot from in the best location. We haven't personally, but some teams have used heat maps to see like, all right, like our teammate shoots right here and they score all their points right here, and our other teammate shoots them on the other side of the field or something crazy. They can shoot over there. We don't conflict. Let's avoid those two locations ourselves, just so we don't hit our teammates. Or vice versa, our opponents shoot right there. All right, let's always drive up and defend that location so they can never get to that location, and we can block it off. Okay. Cool. All right. Yep. That's really important. So match strategy. So with match strategy, here this is kind of the stats I was talking about. This is like our database screen here. We can search the match number, and it'll tell you all of the stats for a robot here, and it's very important to see kind of like what's going on. This up here is average upper cargo. This is from Seven Rivers. This is from the finals. You can see us with our partner Ponage here. We're scoring the best. So these two are going to be shooting here, and then seeing this is the other alliance, and this scores the second. These two teams score very well, and you can see their third partner scores a little bit lower. You can probably assume they're going to be playing some defense on us. And you can see climbing down here. We have our how long it takes to climb in seconds, and then we have how many times they've done that over the entire competition. So, but yeah. All right, so the pick list. This is a really important one here. So with this pick list, we want to have, the first thing you want to know when you do your pick list, who on your team is going to be there. So what I've done is obviously you want to have the strategy team there. Who's been like working with all the other teams and all that stuff. Normally I like to have at least one person from programming, one person from the mechanical part of the team, and then obviously one person from drive team. Just so that like you have a question you can ask them instead of saying, I'll ask them tomorrow morning when they wake up because they went to bed early. You want to determine, and you want to, obviously, what we found is the less people you have, probably the easier it is to get through those decisions, because there's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to be made and a lot of discussion. We've had pick lists that have gone for 3 hours. Nobody wants to do that. And it's really hard to make the perfect decisions with everybody being happy. So it's kind of difficult. Also, we'd like to have some of our experienced scouters where they know what they're talking about, and we can kind of get some other information that the mechanical people, program people might not be aware of, or even the strategy people. So what you first want to do is determine how good you are. Not like what your rank is, but like what are you good at. So 930, we were pretty good at shooting by the came to our last competition, as well as climbing. Our autonomous worked sometimes, but it wasn't the best autonomous. There were other robots that are better. And also, what type of robots are we looking for our first and second pick? Are we looking for a strong offensive robot with a climber? Are we looking for a strong autonomous because ours is really bad? What are we looking for? And then, in the second pick, are we looking for another offensive robot? Like, are we low enough ranked where we could get 2 offensive robots? Are we the 8th seed? Or are we like in the 2nd seed where you can't get a second offense? And categorize robots. So go to the next slide. This just kind of blows up this chart. So this is our Tableau data. We just made this chart in Tableau. It comes with the kit parts. So you can see these top 2 or 3 teams. This is total points in the bottom. They're like way up there. And then you kind of got these next 2, almost 3 teams, and they're almost up there. And you got like this set of 4 teams that are down here. And these are like different tiers of robots. Obviously, the more points you score, the better. But you can see like what type of robots are you getting, like when you're picking and they're getting eliminated, who's left, who kind of just scores the most, more or less. Also, the different colors are different parts. Red is auto, blue is tally up, orange is endgame. So you can see who is like carrying an auto. Like you can see Ponage up there, which they'll be here tomorrow, so their auto is really good. But their end game was a little shorter than like our end game and Warrior Boss's end game. But that's just one of the tools we use. There's a visualization. This is another thing we use, another bubble chart, but we kind of look at it like this. It doesn't matter what rank you are, it just matters you make the same list, more or less. It just matters the length of your list. If I am like the 4th seed captain, or before I'm ranked 4th, and I really want to be with the 2nd ranked team, and they're number 1 on my list, I'm not just be like, oh well, I'm gonna go up and talk to them tomorrow and be like, hey man, this is what I can provide for the Lions. And talk about certain things. And I can talk a little bit later about that. It just, if you're smoozing somebody or if you're picking somebody, it's all the same thing, the same list, just make sure you have it on your list. And then we can talk this bubble chart on the next slide, and there'll be a chart. So go to the next bubble slide. So this basically is another way of looking at the categorizing the robots. You can see like these 5 teams are, whoa, they're just really out there. It's a lot easier to see than the other one. So on the bottom axis, it's just tele-up points, and then on the vertical axis is endgame and auto. And the darker the thing is, the better the endgame is, and the bigger the dot is the bigger the auto. So we can see, like, similar to the last chart, it's just a lot easier to see. It's another way of just, who is in the most top right, I want to be with them. And that's kind of what we did, more or less. But next one. So this is another one we use. This is the database side, using Google Sheets. This is sorted by tele-up points, or cargo. So you can just look at all these certain things, color-coded. Top to bottom is obviously the higher up, the better you are, and the lower you are, or the more right it is, the less good it is. It's just another way of telling certain things. This is not the be-all end-all, it's just the basics, more or less. Next slide. So this is like kind of last thing here, or second last thing. So this is a point possibility chart where you can use to fill out your like dream alliance, kind of, sort of, more or less. So let's go next one. Hypothetically, we're the captain. Doesn't really matter where you are. Just put yourself in here. That's what we were scoring at Duluth, more or less. Or sorry, at Seven Rivers. Those are all the points. So we're looking for a second pick. So we're gonna. I should break this up. Sorry, I'm doing this a little bit first. Our lines total down here. In autonomous, you can only score 38 points with all the cargo being scored and everybody taxiing. In endgame, the maximum amount of points you can score is 45 points. And tele-op is infinite because you can, I mean, hypothetically, there is a cap, but it's basically infinite. So this is kind of like the dream sheet. You would plug in each team probably in your head, because that's what I did. How do they compare to us? What is our strength? What is our weaknesses? At this competition, we were pretty well-rounded, and our second pick was pretty well-rounded, more or less. And then we just kind of went down. So go to the next one, and that would be our next pick. This is hypothetical, where our second pick would be a defensive robot down here, but that's kind of how it would break down if we went that way. So I'll go over an actual example. So if you go to the next slide, this is Duluth. We were a really bad tele-op robot. We had like a auto that kind of worked. Sometimes it got some points, but our end game was working for what it was, better than some teams. So we decided where we're weak is tele-op. We're really weak here. So we decided to pick Paradigm, because they had the potential, if they were 100% accurate, to score 20 points, 26 points in a match. But they had a mid-climb. So, and their auto was a 2-ball. So we needed a robot with a traversal. So we picked the 52nd seed out of 53 to be on our lines, because they had a traversal. And we saw that in their pit scouting. Never worked the entire competition, but because we did pit scouting, we went up to them Saturday morning, hey, we want to see you guys try it. And they made it up to high, went for traversal, and slipped off the bar. And we're like, well, we got no options, picked them anyways, we made it to semis. Wasn't the best, our robot wasn't the best there, and we tried, but that was a risk we took based off of our scouting. And then, last thing I'll talk about, picking pick lists, talking to teams. So this is a part where if you're smoozing them, or whether you're a high ranked team or you're at the bottom, you just want to go up to them and be like, what are you guys looking for in a partner? First pick, second pick, let's talk about it. They'll tell you we're looking for a second pick that can play really good defense with that type of drivetrain. And if that's not you, you can try to still talk about how you can add value to their lines. We're really good at doing traversal in this many seconds, and we've done a very consistency, or we have a very accurate shooter that shoots this many, and you can use some of your data to like say, hey, you guys could really use a strong offensive robot with this category, and you can talk about that. And just be honest. This doesn't always work, but it's better to have these conversations than to completely forget about just those robots. Like, oh, we're low ranked, let's just not talk to anybody, and that was my fault. At some of the competitions I've been to, where I just was like, I didn't know what to do, I didn't talk to teams, and we didn't end up getting on a good alliance. But talk to teams, have conversations. If you're good to work with, you're likely to get picked at least at some competitions. I sometimes pick robots over other robots because they have really good people, and that's just kind of how things can go. But that's more or less the last slide that I want to talk about. To recap, we talked about scouting, different types of scouting, pit scouting, match scouting, and pre-scouting. I did forget to mention, we tried using pre-scouting. We don't use it a whole lot at the competition because it's like, last competition, you can have 2 different robots. At Duluth, we had a catapult. At Wisconsin, we had a full shooter that was in the top like 5 shooters there. So it can be 180 depending on the competition. Strategies during kickoff, we had the point analysis chart where we talk about how to get the maximum mathematically best amount of points and time management, all that fun stuff. And determining scouting metrics, we just found out like what can you find out besides the basic point things, all the accuracies and certain things like that. Training, scouting and training. Have a presentation, talk to your scouters, make sure they're prepared, give them actual matches to watch and have them scout those matches. And the match strategy, have everybody there, talk to drive teams, talk about each phase of the game, and you should be doing well. Pick list, and we went over a lot of stuff, and use your data, use your graphs, use your charts. All those charts, that took me 4 years to make all those. Half of them I stole from other teams. So just be smart, and you could steal from the best and bet the rest. That's always been something that our head mentor tells us, and I do that a lot. So, but yeah, do you guys have any questions you want to talk to me right now? All right, cool. Yes.
What would you recommend for a team that has very few students?
Very few students.
A lot of this would involve having a big team that has like a lot of students.
Right. So that one, work with other teams. So at Duluth, at literally every single competition we went to, we worked with one other team. We used to have 40 students on our team. We got 20, which is a lot more than some teams. Work with another team, ask them, hey, can we split the scouters 3 and 3 or 2 and 4 or 2 and 2 and 2, and work with other teams just so we send out emails like 2 weeks before competition, talk to them like, would you guys like to scout with us? We give you all the data and analysis. You guys just give us people. And that's what I just have done in the past. And yeah, the database side of things is kind of a whole handful to get to, but it will take some time. We've had generally 1 or 2 students on our sub team just on strategy, like the whole entire season, in addition to drive team and stuff. But yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is it possible to get our hands on this app or find something to do with this app before it gets released to
Yes.
the public?
Yes.
Okay.
We could talk like right after the whole group, and we can figure out how we can get this out to you guys
Great.
as soon as possible.